What's going on, family? It's beautiful hump day, and we gotta find our way to get through the day. Anyways, shout out to everybody making moves in this life. So I just finished listening to the Breakfast Club interview with Damon Dash, and I haven't watched the Breakfast Club in a minute. And ironically, my favorite Breakfast Club episodes is always with Damon Dash, because he's always, whether you like Damon Dash or not, it's irrelevant. He's always said some real stuff about economics and learning about business, and just being about, being manhood in regards to take care of your family, regardless of if you're with your spouse or you're not, as far as with the woman who had your kids. Stand on your square, be a man, and be about your business, and be who you are at the end of the day. I know there's going to be a lot of controversy with what he had to say in the video, but I just, I think it's realness. I mean, remember that interview with the Breakfast Club, the first one he had that went viral, because I didn't even know about the Breakfast Club until I even saw that interview. It was 10 years ago. It's 2015, 10 or 11 years ago, 2015, 2014 time frame. So, and it was, historic in regards to talking about being a boss, being a business owner, and things of that nature. But moral of the story is, at the end of the day, always on his manhood, always about his man business, and always telling, he's like, especially if you have kids, he says, stop living for yourself, living for, if you have a family, live for your family, And I just saw Charlamagne the God at InvestFest down in Atlanta last month in August. And they've always had this tumultuous go back and forth relationship, him and the Breakfast Club, because they don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. And the points I really took away from Damon Dash in regards to what he had to say about, I'm going to say, I know I hear a siren somewhere. But anyways, the points I really, make sure I'm not blocking them. But yeah, the points I really take away from Damon Dash and what he had to say in regards to Charlamagne, DJ Envy, and the Breakfast Club as a whole. When he said the words, you guys have been sitting in this radio booth in this office for 15 years. He's like, and you guys haven't really learned anything. Now, I don't think that's 100% true, but I know what he meant when he said you guys haven't really learned anything. Give me a second. I don't like having this air. I have to turn my AC on because I'm getting a little hot up in here. But anyways, when he said those words, when Damon Dash said those words about people not being in the same place and not really growing, that was real to me. Because that's the biggest thing I took away. He's like, you guys are trying to sound smart, like you're in business, like you're doing business, but you guys aren't really doing business. And when he said that, I'm just like, that hit me. Because, a lot of people wonder why I like to travel a lot, and it's not because I just want to have fun. I like to get away from my surroundings. See, growth for me is bigger than just watching a podcast, and it's bigger than just, getting a degree and a certification. Growth is getting around other people and doing different things. The reason why I keep going to InvestFest, I've been 3 years in a row now, is because I want to meet men specifically, and collaborate with other men specifically in regards to business and investments and finances on all multiple levels. Just like the way people like to get together for football parties and video game parties, I like to get together for economic parties. When he kept, and in his rash Harlem, New York way, he was just like telling them, like, hey, you guys have been doing the same thing. He said, you're not growing. You're talking about business like you know what you're talking about, but he's like, you don't know what you're talking about, especially in regards to when you file for bankruptcy. Everybody thinks that filing for bankruptcy is the worst thing possible, and he's like, that's not true. He said, it just depends on the situation. He says, rich people file for bankruptcy all the time to be strategic financially, because they know, the system in America, regardless who's in the White House, governor's house, and mayor's house, it's built to work for business people, lawyers, and investors. At the end of the day, that's the way the U.S. economy is. Sometimes it can be more aggressively for people in that position, but even if a Democrat's in the White House or running Congress, it's going to be built for people in that position. Why? Because all your representatives from the federal, state, and local level are business people and investors and lawyers. And that's the thing that Fox News and CNN won't talk about enough, because that means if everybody, I think everybody knows this, but if everybody approaches politics with that mindset, you wouldn't have the left versus the right anymore. You'd have the rich versus the poor, the investor versus the business owner versus the employee, the business owner versus the lawyer. Like that would be the mindset if more working people understood those simple principles. It's not left versus right. It's who has the green, who has the land, who has the assets. It's really simple. So whether Trump's in the White House, if Harris would have been in the White House, 10, 20 years from now, if Porky Pig is in the White House, if Looney Tunes is in the White House, the business owners, the lawyers, and the investors will be the ones really making the moves and dictating policy, regardless of who's sitting in these political positions. This is why everybody, people, certain, I'd say, fools, I'll just go with fools, that's the best word to use, remove me from their social media because I say these words, because I don't agree with their line of thinking, whether they're left thinking or right thinking. I say let's be economic thinkers, and then of course they get mad because they want to. I like unproductive people like to argue over things that have nothing to do with real growth. That's the sad. I always say that's just the sadness of social media. The biggest sadness of social media. People love to argue over things that have nothing to do with growth. But that's the way people choose to utilize their time. That's their business. I have nothing to say about that anymore. But I will say, 95 was actually decent for a change. I can't believe it. That's just still saving me some time. But I will say that at the end of the day, that when Damon Dash said that, he's like, you guys have been in the same room for a long time. It doesn't mean that you can't learn anything by having a job. Because I know everybody always took it that Damon Dash says you shouldn't have a job. Now this rain wants to pick up. Yeah, sorry for the rain, y'all. I can't help that. But anyways, he said that people don't, he said that, said that Charlemagne and DJ Envy haven't really learned anything because they've been in the same room. I don't think that's true, but I know what he meant by that. He's basically saying that, unfortunately, at times having a job, and I have a job, so I'm not downing on anybody who has a job, but having a job, when you have to be stuck in a room, this is why a lot of people are upset about return to work. That I'm going to go live on my, not live, but I'm going to make a video tonight. Patterson L Properties, check it out, in regards to talking about, the state of the housing market and why you see more luxury apartments being built than you see anything else. Like single family homes, townhomes aren't really being built like that. Most developers are building luxury apartments nowadays because there's more money in it for them. Because obviously, developers they're in the business of developing real estate to make money, not to lose profits. But anyways, I digress. So, moral of the story is that a lot of times when you're stuck in the same room with the same people, you can't grow from that environment. You can grow within that environment, yes, but you can't grow and have a mindset outside of that environment. Case in point, like I said, over the last few years, I didn't realize how many people don't really leave their town, how many people are scared to get on an airplane, how many people are scared to just be around people that think and live differently, that earn money differently. Because I like to call it, and I'm not insulting anybody, at least I'm not trying to, I call it a factory mindset, a factory worker's mindset. Is there anything wrong with being a factory worker? Absolutely not. But if you're happy with just living I'm going to go to work and I'm going to go home and pay bills lifestyle, and that's it, then yeah, that's the results that you're going to get. But if you don't mind doing that, plus doing additional things and keep yourself in a learning environment outside of your job and outside of your town, outside of your state, outside of your, even at times, country, like this is some serious stuff. It's like be able to adapt in other environments and think outside of the box in other environments. That's why a lot of times people shout out to the veterans. A lot of people who are in the military, not all, some but not all, of course this phone wants to slip on me, some but not all, are able to adapt and overcome in various different, like once they get out of uniform, they're used to going to a new job, jumping from job to job, or starting a company to company, and adapting. They're well versed to adapting in new environments because they've had to be deployed in war zones. They've had to get stationed at other places every couple of years or every year. You know, sometimes they have to go at a moment's notice and be ready to go and trained to go to a crazy environment. You know, so they're used to being in different environments around different people and coordinating and engaging with different people. They're used to that mindset. They're used to that environment. So they have the, you know, what you hear with the Marines say, adapt and overcome mindset. And in the civilian world nowadays, we really don't have the luxury anymore of being able to just say, I'm just going to have a job. Obviously, dealing with AI, and a lot of jobs being taken away. We don't have the luxury of just saying, this is what I'm going to do. This job is what I'm going to do, and this place I'm going to live at, and that's going to be the end of that. You know, I don't want to learn anything else. I don't want to engage. I don't want to, grow. I never forget this one guy. He was definitely retired. He was working part time at a job. This is like 8 years ago, 10 years ago. And he was retired from the government, and he was working as a government contractor. And he asked a question about a certain situation. We were I never forget, he was at an HR meeting. And the woman said to him, well, you'll learn. He's like, no, I'm old. I don't want to learn anything. And it was just the funniest thing ever. But bear in mind, this was 10 years ago. And I believe he had like one of those people from the last generations that have an old-fashioned pension. Most people can't, don't have that. To where, and when I say a real pension, I mean actually a pension that pays enough to where basically almost to the point where it covers, if it doesn't cover your salary that you did have at that job, it covered up to 80 to 90% of that salary that you had. So with that being said, that generation could afford to just say, hey, I'm going to just have a job, raise my family, pay bills, and die. In that order. They had that and because nowadays that's considered a luxury. People don't have that anymore. I mean, like the comedian Godfrey was saying, everything is revolving around money. I mean, you going live, posting content, like everybody's a content creator, including myself. That's why I'm not crapping on it. Everybody's a content creator. Everybody's trying to sell a product, sell a service. Everything's about money. Now, why do you think every time I post in the morning I say hashtag make money moves, the shirts I sell, hashtag make money moves, I live broke like a fool? Because I mean that. And that's why so many people, the upside of people being at home during the pandemic, during the lockdown, the people that were, is we had an opportunity to save money, invest money, earn more money, whether you were working or not working. And we had opportunities to learn new skill sets, open businesses and things of that nature. Some of us did that. A lot of us didn't. That's the thing. Some of us had a chance to grow. And then, like, even though we couldn't really go anywhere and whatnot, we had an opportunity to grow by engaging with other online groups, Zoom meetings, etc., and so forth. We were able to evolve into something different because the world has evolved into something different since the pandemic. Whether you say it's for better or for worse, that's another story. But the world has evolved. Have you evolved with it? I can't answer that question. Have you evolved with it? I cannot answer that question. I'm not even going to try to answer that question because that's an individualistic answer. I feel like I have. My mindset is totally different from 2020 to 2025. Heck, 2025 has been an awakening in a big, big way. But the main thing that resonated for me in that interview that Damon Dash had with them, growth. Because he's trying to have a conversation in his way. Damon Dash is a straight up a-hole. He is. It is what it is. In his way. But he's telling Charlemagne and he's telling DJ Envy, hey, he's telling these guys, he's like, hey, you guys haven't evolved because you've been sitting in the same room for 15 years. You've been saying the same things for 15 years. And in a sense, I agree with him because this is why I'm not going to say that they're not intelligent people, but I'm going to be real. It's like, there's a reason why I barely watch The Breakfast Club anymore, because it's mostly stupidity and gossip that's on there for the people that are on there. It's the same old talking points Nobody's really, challenging and pushing the narrative to the way that I think that it should be. And a lot of it can boil down to being a waste of time, and especially when it comes to celebrity nonsense and drama and whatnot. I mean, the fact that Damon Dash, he kept talking about, yeah, I'm a boss. He's like, this is what I'm doing now. Hey, when I first knew of Damon Dash, he was the CEO of Rockefeller Records. He's been moved on. He's had art galleries, other clothing lines, books. He's giving back to community. He even talked about, he said, hey, how come you guys don't talk about me going into the youth jails, youth prisons, and talking to the youth about how to become better men and women? How come you don't talk about me going into school districts with mayors and congresspeople and state senators and whatnot, and talking about how people can become entrepreneurs and get skill sets and investments and things of that nature? He's like, how come you guys don't talk about that? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know why they don't, because that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good press for social media. That wouldn't be good press for the Breakfast Club, because it's something positive. This is why I despise the media, because they focus on the negativity. You never hear about the good that's going on in Chicago. There are good things, okay? You never hear nowadays the good that's happening in Detroit. There are good things. You never hear about the good that, I'm in the DMV area. You never hear the good about what's going on in DC. There are good things, but you will never hear about that. Why? Because positivity doesn't sell. It's not sexy to enough people. Being stupid, ratchet, and negative, that's what sells. All right, that's the main reason why, a lot of times my channel, Larry's Anything Goes LLC or Patterson L Properties LLC on YouTube specifically, doesn't grow, because I'm not getting on there sounding like I don't read books and getting on there and just talking about celebrity nonsense. The fact that I'm talking about a celebrity because he actually had something, important to say, at least to me. The fact that, he's talking about, he said, because this is the thing, this is the thing that most people who have a job, including myself, don't get. If you go into the same place every day, if you go hanging around the same people every day, all right, if you're only in your same town all the time and never get away, and the only time you do get away is for fun, then it's very hard to grow. That's why I was giving props to the military and people who do missionary work or whatnot, or people that have a job that requires them to travel around the country and around the world, because you're around different people. You get to meet different personalities. You get to be around people who have a different mindset than you, and they might not agree with you on everything, but the people that you can learn from the most are the ones who you disagree with the most. And I think that's the biggest problem on the left and the right, especially in 2025, is that they can't have that mindset, because they're so, foot deep down in the sand in regards to what they believe in. But that's just why I said, when the unfortunate murders, took place, and my condolences to the families on all the murders that have taken place, specifically the recent ones that have taken place in Mississippi. Shout out Mississippi. I own real estate in Jackson, Mississippi. And those lynchings were terrible, just as bad as the shooting was terrible that happened with Charlie. So I don't condone anybody dying. But what I do condone is people working together and learning more from each other. Because the biggest problem in today's world is everybody thinks they know everything, and they don't really know nothing. Because even in the interview, you can see with DJ Envy and Charlamagne, they want to prove the point to Damon. And like I said, Damon can be a jerk. I'm not going to say he's not. But the man makes more money than them. They know that they can learn from him, but they don't want to listen to him. And I know that with him being older now, he has less patience, and I get it, because the older I get, the less patience I have with people. And once again, I paid to go to InvestFest with thousands of others to network and learn something. I didn't go there bragging about what I do and who I am, what I'm about, and how much money I make, how fancy my cars and my house is and all that other crap. I was there to learn. And that's the biggest problem with so many people today. Everybody thinks they know everything because they have a smartphone. As the character Cedric the Entertainer from Barbershop 3, smartphone, dumb girl. And that goes for a lot of people in our society. Smartphones, dumb people. Because the biggest idiots on the planet are the ones that think they know everything, that they can't learn anything. We can all learn something new every day, including myself. So that's all I had to say. Damon Dash I think he was right on point with his situation, talking about, hey, he's like, because when they asked him about the child support, he said, you know how much I have to pay in child support every year? He said $250,000, and I've been doing that, or $203,000. I've been having to do that for 25 years. He said, do you think that's the actions of a broke man? And then he said another thing that a lot of people don't, they don't understand or don't know. I won't even say understand. Sometimes they don't know, because I learn something new every day. He said, on paper, yeah, I am broke. He said, but remember, all my money's tied up into my businesses. He said, and he said to them, you guys keep forgetting, most rich people, or darn near all rich people in this country or even around the world, they don't have, on paper, they are broke. But their money's tied up into their businesses and assets. So they have nothing in their name. When they a lot of times they don't even have a debit card. When they pay for something with a credit card, it's in their business name. He said they have homes that's in their business name. They have cars that's in their business's name. They don't even have anything in their name. And that's just something the regular, everyday working people don't think about, or at least don't discuss on a regular basis. So, and this goes to all the millionaires and billionaires. The ones that really make money like that, of course, you wait till the last minute to put your signal on. He's like, they don't, like I said, they don't really have money. Like, they don't have anything in their name. And that's for tax purposes. Because then when it comes tax time, they still have to pay a tax bill and whatnot. But they found enough legal loopholes to not have to pay a lot, or not have to pay any taxes to the state. And that's why a lot of them move to states where there are no income state tax. Shout out Florida and Texas. Washington State. So anyways, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channels. Larry's Anything Goes LLC, Patterson Properties LLC, and I'll see y'all later. Take care.